I've ridden and enjoyed lots of e-mountain bikes, but I still love my mountain bike and I've never jumped in 100%. But is this the bike to finally convince me to ditch my mountain bike? I've always used an e-bike as an answer to sort of busy life commitments, work, family, kids, and just getting on my e-bike and getting a really good ride in a short amount of time. Or, as I'm an old downhill racer, I kind of use my e-bike as a shuttle bike for just getting me back to the top of the hill and then sessioning tracks over and over, technical stuff, jumps, or even sometimes going out to my local wood and just bombing every single trail on that hill, something that I probably wouldn't be asked to do on a normal mountain bike. But there's always been a big but with e-bikes for me. I've never felt the need to just drop the old mountain bike in the garage and never ride it again. And I know loads of people do that. The first time they feel that extra assistance out on the trail, the love affair with the mountain bike goes stone cold and they never get back on it. Steve Jones is one of those people. I know that he never rides a normal mountain bike anymore, or a dinosaur bike, as Steve likes to call them. But Steve is a dinosaur himself. So why do I still ride my mountain bike? Well, it's two things for me. It's the speed limiter coupled with the weight of e-bikes. I know this varies around the world, but the UK is 25 kilometers an hour, Europe as well. And some states in America it's higher, it's 32 kilometers an hour. And yes, I've ridden e-bikes where over the limit, there isn't that much drag. You can pedal them quite nicely, but it's still pretty lung busting to get much faster. And that's been the thing. Yes, I've ridden de-restricted bikes that kind of solve the problem, but for me, it's not the way to go. It's too risky as far as warranty. Also legal problems. I don't want to run into any problems just because I've decided to sort of mod my bike. So I'd rather stick with the bike as it comes. So I've found that limit, well, very limiting on some of the trails that I ride. They're not particularly steep. They're kind of fast enduro trails. And just over that limit, it just took so much more effort to go quick. And whilst I'm not timing them anymore, I just felt that on my enduro bike, I could go that extra 4 miles an hour, 5, wherever it is, easily, and it was more fun. Whereas the e-bike sometimes felt like a ball and chain. I'd hit that limit and it just wasn't worth the extra effort to ride the trail at the speed I wanted to. However, I had my eyes open to the lightweight e-bikes last year when I rode the Orbea Rise. Over the limit, the bike felt fine, had minimal drag, was almost unnoticeable, and the weight was also not an issue. But the riding I do 95% of the time is like I described earlier, enduro style. So I'm not that bothered about how I get to the top, but I really enjoy bombing back down the fun, techie, jumpy trails. So when Specialized announced the Levo SL last May, my ears pricked up. This looked to me on paper like the right e-bike for me. It's an enduro bike with 170mm travel, the right geometry and that SL motor package. Could this be my answer? Suspension travel is 170mm front and rear. There's loads of adjustability with 6 distinct geometry settings with a head angle of between 62.5 and 64 degrees. A 320 watt-hour battery with a 35 Nm torque motor. Sleek display and super customizable fields and motor settings. A weight of approximately 40 pounds or 18.5 kilograms. Every time Specialized release a new bike, it's time to stop and look. They've been really innovative in the sector from the first Levo. We're almost getting to a point now with brands like Specialized, but also Orbea with their Rise, and Shimano getting on board with smaller displays, where you can look at a bike now and not necessarily tell that it's an e-bike. Keeping this bike weight to about 40 pounds keeps that within about 8 or 9 pounds of the Specialized Enduro, so low weight should mean this bike is playful. Only one way to find out. Is it going to turn me into a full-time e-biker? Felt good then, like definitely that trail I'm over the top of the speed limit, and you kind of the only thing you notice is the whir of the motor disappears, but actually it still goes forward. and it being lightweight, it's a couple of kind of flat sections with roots where if you play through them, you just lose loads of speed, so you want to get a little unweight or hop over them, and it's just as easy as you'd expect on an enduro bike, really. So swings and roundabouts, I definitely think you lose on the low end. Obviously you don't have as much power as a full e-bike, so if you're trying to get up punchy climbs and techie climbs, full e-bike's going to be better for that. These just aren't as quick. But I kind of said that already, that's kind of not my style of riding. Although maybe if I rode an e-bike properly, my riding would change a little bit, but kind of for my shuttley stuff, so far so good.
With a good feeling of how the bike rides downhill, I'm now going to take it for a spin. I've added the battery extender with 160 watt hours to now up to 480 watt hours. I was slightly worried about how far I'd get without it. The battery extender adds 1.2 kilograms of weight. I'm going to go for a normal ride, go ride as much as I can in a fairly short amount of time. I've got my Garmin to measure my heart rate, and you've got a power meter in the bike to show how much I put in and what the bike's providing, so I can compare it to a normal ride. With a 2-hour ride time, I managed to cover 28 kilometers and actually climb an impressive 1,290 meters. My heart rate averaged 125 BPMs and my max was 174, which is pretty good. My absolute maximum is 183 normally. The power came out at 135 watts of normalized power, which is a bit lower if you compare it to an acoustic ride I've done normally. I've done 158 watts and 180 watts normalized power on a couple of recent mountain bike rides. But interestingly, my heart rate on the e-bike ride, average and max, was higher than both of those mountain bike rides. I started off using trail mode mostly and for turbo just for the steepest bits of the climb, but realised pretty soon that the battery was going to outlast me. So I didn't even feel like I needed the turbo at the top of the hill to get up to speed on the downhills like I normally do with a heavier e-bike. In trail mode, I could get up to speed quick anyway. Eventually, I just stuck it into turbo when I realised I wasn't going to run out of battery. 28k, 1,290 meters, and I still had 29% of battery left at the end. It's fair to say I was enjoying the Levo SL, so I went back out for another ride at the weekend, and in an hour, I did 670 meters of climbing and 15 kilometers smashing out downhill runs without the battery extender this time, in full turbo mode, which is much more like the rides I do most often, short and fast.
So e-bikes are different things for different people, and I think people that jump onto like an SL or a Levo SL like this one, they might miss the punch, the full power of a full e-bike. Like I said before, for some of that techie climbing or for riding with mates who've got full fat e-bikes, then I don't think this is the bike for them. But what you compromise on there is sort of what I like on the other end. You miss out on the lower power, but you get the top end for me. And I love the fact that you hardly notice that limit, and there's very little drag. Even pedaling it with the motor off, it's pretty good. Like, it's, you know, almost as good as a normal bike. So is this the bike that will convince me forever? Well, let's answer these questions. Is it as good as an enduro bike downhill? Almost. For me, almost. I think for some people it'd be better, some people not quite as good. There's definitely moments today where it's felt brilliant through some of the rough stuff, like e-bikes do. The extra weight sometimes is really nice, where they feel completely planted, like it's hard to fall off. Even when you're smashing through quite technical stuff, it feels great. It doesn't feel as sort of flickable and as maneuverable, although this is quite a big one. This is an S4, so compared to my enduro bike, it's a bit longer and it's a bit heavier, so it's gonna be a bit less maneuverable. But I think for some people, they will be faster. Like I say, it feels so planted. Can you get a fast, short ride like an e-bike and get the laps in? Yeah, I think you can. It's not gonna be as quick, definitely. You do miss out. Bombing up the fire roads, even turbo on this, it's just not gonna be as fast, or you have to put more effort in. So, I mean, potentially you're gonna get sweatier, put more work in, but I don't think you're gonna get quite as many laps as you would on a full e-bike, but there's not much in it. Is it too much of a compromise for people that love full fat e-bikes? Yeah, I think, again, it's kind of hard to give a direct answer because people ride bikes differently. Some people, this will feel underpowered. Again, it does work for me, jumping off like you know, the other end scale from a mountain biker coming into an e-bikes, it feels great. But if you jumped on a full fat Levo, this is going to feel underpowered to a lot of e-bikers. But you do get a much more lively ride for it, and that sort of over the top limit. If you're bombing downhill tracks, then I don't think this is too big a compromise. Will you keep up with your mates on full e-bikes? I don't think you will. I think you'll find it hard. It'll be interesting, probably need to go and try this out. I think you're gonna have to be putting much more watts into the bike to keep up with them, which if you're after more of a workout, great, but yeah, I think you're gonna find it hard. Is it for me? Yeah, I love it. I think it's definitely sort of that area of e-bikes that I'm really interested in. Like I said, I rode the All Bear rides. That's great for epic rides. It's shorter travel. It does give you that freedom. Some of the taglines you see or some of the marketing for e-bikes, that felt like that. But this does feel like a proper bike that you can bomb down hills on. So I think this is the e-bike. Will it convince me to ride e-bikes full time? No, afraid not. I still love my normal analog bike. Yeah, I'm not as fit as I used to be, so sometimes it does feel like hard work, but still, the lightweight of those bikes, the way you can move them around, especially in the air, I do love that. You can whip those bikes. Not to say you can't do it on this, it's just a bit different. So, I'd love to have this one in my garage. Sorry, Chris, I borrowed this off Chris Smith. Yeah, you're not gonna get it back, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna be ditching my analog bike just yet. Thanks for watching. Leave me any questions in the comments down below. I'll try and get back to you. And of course, if you wanna see more analog bikes, head over to GMBN and subscribe to eMBN and GMBN. Why not? 2 channels, get loads of sweet mountain bike and e-bike videos.